Hello, everyone. It's Tom Malosh here with Tom Bellinson. Yes, the two Toms,
Tom and Tom back again.
and we wrote a book on intentional culture. And I'm going to put a date on this, even though it's always risky to date things. But it's like March of 2026 when we're recording this, and I think Tom and I both find this, at least I do, and I think you do, one of the most remarkable times to be alive in our entire lives.
Yeah.
We've we're older. We've seen a lot of change in tech, and nothing feels like this right now.
And I would, Tom, I was thinking the other day, I've been in I got into the microcomputer business in the late 70s when the Apple II just had started to like penetrate the consumer market. There was a TRS-80 by Radio Shack and the Apple computer. There were some others, but those two were like just dominating. And I was there. And then when local area networking started to take off, I was there. And when
Mm.
groupware, email, and things like that came along, I was there. I was working with companies on the cutting edge of this stuff. And then when the internet came along, I actually owned the first internet business in
Yeah,
Michigan that I knew
you
of. I didn't.
created an internet company,
We. I was just
and I
fortunate.
was in an internet startup too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other story that I won't get into. But the point being is, I've been on the bleeding edge of every major tech breakthrough in the computer industry since the microcomputer. I just happened to glom onto the right place at the right time to be part of that. And nothing comes even
Nothing,
close to comparing what we're experiencing right now.
nothing. And for people who know, I'll give at least one example just for people who don't know and aren't aware. And I'm going to go into specifics. It will also age probably really quickly, but um, my one of my business partners and I have been working on a program, and we've been using AI tools to explore how to program things faster. And he has no programming skills, and he has friends who have no programming skills. And he was telling a friend what he was working on, and the friend had just got a quote for 6 months and $300,000 by a traditional team to build a piece of software that he really needed. And you and I might look at that quote and have considered it really reasonable last year. Like you and I might have written that quote
It's so
last year.
last year.
So my business partner told his friend, he's like, look, why don't you download what was Claude Code and Claude and pay $100 a month, maybe 200 for it. And here's how I've been using it, and see what you could do by yourself. Now, his friend doesn't even know these tools. And so all of his tools are totally new to them. They've played with AI chatbots, large language models. They've never written software before. He gets a message back 2 days later from his friend saying, I'm done.
Sans the $300,000 bill.
Sans, it probably, if he was smart, he only spent 100 on the large language, on open
That's right.
flood code for a month.
That's why they
He's
can't do
done.
30-day trials on that stuff, because you could do way too much in that amount of time.
Now, you and I know, and other people who are software professionals know, well, it's probably not really done. It might be. I watched my business partner prompt into existence in about 5 to 10 days a complete system for his business. It might actually be done. Depends on if he was just building a tool for himself to run his business better. He's not trying to scale it and sell it to 20 million people. He might be done.
Yeah.
That's the time we're living in. And I wanted to lead with this because I'm like, I don't think this makes our book on intentional culture less important.
I hope not.
I
Every
think it's
day
going to
I
make it
hope not.
more important.
Part of me feels like a lot of what people have been doing is hiring folks because they have certain specialized skills that they need. And I think that the smart players out there are going to realize that no, you want to hire people who are smart, creative, easy to work with, who can like really get in there and come up with ideas that they can try, because the actual building of these things anymore is going to be inconsequential. The technical skills will be automated.
I'm, I really love working with small companies, and you and I have focused intentional culture on small companies. When I've done a lot of my agile in my career in agile has been with large companies. I'm really excited more for small companies at this time, right? What you've outlined in intentional culture, and now we wrote it together, but a lot of this was really your vision and your success in building multiple businesses and how to frame it for people. That focus on mission, vision, and values. I think that may become 90% of the work. It used to be that was 5% of the work. But as this AI begins to make it dramatically easier to create systems to help you achieve your goals, really understanding what those goals are and getting clarity on what you're really seeking to do with your business, what really means for it to be a success, what you really want to accomplish in some periods of time. That first thing, of course, mission, the next being vision, you're really seeking to accomplish next. In values, like how you want to approach it, how do you want to hire people, how do you want them to interact, how do you want them to behave. uh, I see that as being when you can prompt an awful lot of the supporting infrastructure into existence in a few days. That clarity on where you want to be and who you are, I just think is way more important, because I now just see it as a part of the time, a bigger part of the work.
Right. It is a brave new world.
And so it's like, wow. I mean, separately, I built a whole application for myself for a volunteer job I do as a board member. And I'm like, this is the tool I'd like. And I've prompted a $500,000 tool I've prompted into existence in about 10 days.
What took you so long?
I know. Well, and there's a reason it took so long, because I'm a software professional. So I actually spent half my time prompting the tool to write exceptionally good code.
Yeah, I had a conversation with another friend of mine who was doing the same thing you're doing with different app, and he kept saying, "Oh, I didn't write a single line of code." I said, "Did you read the code?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Did you write prompts based on what you saw in the code?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, just imagine in a few years when all the software developers are gone because we killed them." Not, literally, just figuratively.
Hopefully
I
not.
was like, oh my goodness. But the people that will be prompting for this code won't be able to look at it like you and he did and say, well, we need to fix this. You'll just get what you get. Now, also, you can see like how rapidly the code quality is improving. Like the code a year ago, that you could get it to write code, but you couldn't write code at any scale. and even the small scale code that you got often was convoluted and hard to read and didn't do exactly what you wanted. Those days are over already. I mean, you can
Yeah.
already write pretty decent code without knowing. I mean, what you and he were doing is fine tuning for all intents and purposes. And in another year, you don't even need that.
So in our book, we reference what I like to call a heartbeat ceremony. And in the core of this for me is because someone asked me, have you been reading the code? I'm like, I made a commitment not to write code and not to read code. So they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, the same thing I did when I created Menlo Innovations. I have a few key metrics that I believe help define what it means to be good code. Those metrics I taught the AI and I keep teaching it. And I have one AI that asks me for those metrics almost every time the other AI runs something. It's like, what's the metric now? And so when I created Menlo, I didn't read the code either. I had metrics that I used to understand what I believe were things about the code that if they were there, the code is going to be dramatically higher quality. And that we've proved over 25 years of running Menlo that it's dramatically higher quality. So to me, that's what we're looking for, whether you're writing code or whatever your culture or your value is, because one of your values is evidence. It's like a key thing. I'm not that interested in the evidence of an individual reading the code and saying it's good. That is evidence. But man, I would really like to make most of or a lot of my evidence automatic too.
Yeah.
What is the evidence that we're on the right track?
Well, this might go off in a slightly different direction, but when we talk about intentional culture and organizations and structure and all this, I I sort of part of me wants to say that we're going to have to write a new book because the way organizations are structured is going to change dramatically. Now, you've talked to me about the notion of a one person unicorn startup. And like maybe
Which
that's
almost happened in January, by the way. The only reason it didn't sell for $1 billion is he refused to sell it. He made it open source.
uh well, and here's the
Open
thing.
Claw
Yes,
was
open
probably worth $1
claw
billion. A
or
one person
more than
company,
that.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is the thing, like what the size of an organization is obviously going to change, and the way the way that you structure an organization when an AIs are essentially integrated parts of it, everything's going to change. Maybe not everything, but most things are going to change. And I think there's going to be a lot fewer people in the workforce. And that's a scary thought. And I tend to like to look at things, I like to look at the big picture. It's just my nature. Some people want to keep their head down and focus on the details. That's not me. And so I tend to absorb a lot of different information sources so I can put all the pieces of the big picture together in my head. And I'm watching what's happening in robotics. There's really only one major stumbling block left in robotics, and it's this.
Yeah.
They're working hard. They are
Really
a
hard.
year, maybe two away from having a hand that does this. And when they do, they already have bodies that are better than ours. And they already have brains that are better than ours at a lot of different things. So really, we're just waiting for the hands to catch up. And when they do, all those manual jobs, like think about a plumber. I mean, I always thought plumbers would last longer than anyone else when AI started eating up jobs because they have to work under a sink, and be able to move in really funny angles and stuff and have torque. And I'm looking at these modern robots. I'm like, they've got more degrees of motion than we do.
Yeah. And they're still humanoid in appearance,
Right.
right?
So much for that.
So I do believe like aspects of the book will age quickly, but the core of the book, I think, is going to be valid forever, because what you put into the core of the book at the beginning, it doesn't go away. How it gets manifest will go away. The need for as much coordination as we cover in the second half of the book will go down.
Yeah.
But even a lot of the fundamental principles in that coordination don't go away. You might just build it into your AIs as opposed to into your human team.
You
That's
may be
how I'm
right.
thinking about it right now.
I mean, we explicitly avoided. We talk about organizational structure in the book, but we specifically avoided even giving examples of types of organizational structure, like
Yeah.
especially hierarchical structures. Like we 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 did everything but discourage them, and that I think is going to be huge. Hierarchies are dead. If
It's
you're
fun
thinking
watching
hierarchy, you have got to rethink.
because my AIs have read our book. Uh, they use our language often to describe what they're doing. So it'll be very funny sometimes on the right hand screen. It's like running the retrospective ceremony now, Tom.
doing it
Running the demo
myself.
ceremony.
Me and the other two AIs
With
are
the other
chatting.
AIs.
You're welcome to join.
So I'm like, so I think our stuff survives longer, but maybe not in the form that we imagined when we wrote it over a year ago.
Well, Tom, we're past the point where
Past
we
time, an
past the
interesting time to
time.
be alive.
We're trying not to make these videos longer and longer, but we have too much fun when we get together.
This topic, I knew it was going to be impossible. And
Yeah.
it's such an interesting time to be alive. And,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of fear in this time, man. We want to encourage folks to dive in and experience it, because I think the future is going to be amazing.
Yeah. For those who are engaged in the workforce, and I think there's going to be a lot of entrepreneurs. I mean, you're going to have to be able to come up with ideas, because just waiting for somebody to hire you is going to get harder and harder,
Yeah.
I think. So,
And by the way, your AI may interview you and come up with ideas for you and figure out how to make you most happy and productive. So just so you know,
yeah.
it's like you're going to get help in that too.
Yeah, right. You got to start thinking differently there as well. Well, as usual, thank you for listening. And don't forget to click the subscribe button. Make sure to comment if you have thoughts about AI in the workplace and this crazy time we're in. And if you want to talk further, reach out to us at beintentional.biz. See you soon.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.